There's this really tempting shortcut out there that some business owners take, and it's called a workers' comp ghost policy. It promises this cheap, easy fix, but oh man, it can come back to haunt your business in some truly devastating ways. So let's get into it. What is it, and why is it so incredibly risky?
Okay, so imagine this. You're a small contractor, right? Maybe a sole proprietor. You just landed a huge job, one that could totally make your year. Everything is looking great, but then the client asks for one last thing, a certificate of insurance for workers' comp. It's a totally standard request, but here's the catch. You're a one-person shop. You don't have any employees, so you don't have a policy. What do you do? And right on cue, you hear about something called a ghost policy. And it sounds perfect. It's cheap, it's fast, and it gets you that piece of paper you desperately need. It's a really seductive promise, and honestly, it's a trap that countless business owners walk right into. So what exactly are we talking about here? What is this thing that sounds like it belongs in a horror movie? Let's break down what a ghost policy actually is, because that name, well, it's fittingly creepy for a reason. At its core, a ghost policy is a real workers' comp policy, on paper, but it's built on a foundation of nothing. It's issued to a business with 0 employees and 0 payroll. And on top of that, the owner is specifically excluded from coverage. Think of it like a car that looks real but has no engine. Its one and only purpose is to spit out that certificate of insurance.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head, right? The policy number is real, the certificate looks totally legit, but the actual, financial protection, poof, it's just not there. It gives you a piece of paper, but no real benefits, no medical coverage, no wage replacement if somebody actually gets hurt on your job.
So who gets sucked into buying these things? Well, we see a really clear pattern. It's usually the small, one-person operations, the plumbers, the painters, the HVAC guys. They're under all this pressure to compete, they need to show that proof of insurance to land bigger contracts, but they just can't always justify the cost of a full-blown policy. It's a shortcut to looking compliant.
Okay, this is where things get really, really dangerous. See, ghost policies thrive because of some powerful myths that give people a totally false sense of security. So let's bust these myths one by one. The biggest myth by far is that this is some kind of smart legal workaround. It's not at all. A lot of states see it as a deceptive practice, basically you trying to game the system. In fact, states are cracking down hard, with some banning them completely. It is not a loophole, it's a massive liability.
Now, this next myth, this is probably the most expensive one to believe. A contractor thinks, hey, no problem, I'll just hire subcontractors. But here's what you have to understand. The law is super clear. If you hire a sub who doesn't have their own insurance, that legal responsibility, it flows right up the chain to you. They become what's called a de jure employee. That's just a legal term for by law. So even if you call them a sub, if they get hurt, the law sees them as your employee. And remember your ghost policy? It covers absolutely no one.
And finally, we have the waiver myth. You might have your subcontractor sign some kind of hold harmless agreement thinking you're all good. But trust me, when a serious injury happens, courts almost always side with an injured worker's right to get compensated over a piece of paper you had them sign. That waiver, it is not the ironclad shield you think it is.
All right, so we've busted the myths. Now for the truly terrifying part. What happens when this ghost of a policy meets the cold, hard reality of an accident? This, right here, is where the hunting begins.
That small amount of money you paid for that policy, that's just the fuse on a ticking financial time bomb. The moment an uninsured worker gets hurt, or when the insurance auditor comes knocking, that's when the real costs start to explode. So let's look at the actual damage.
First up, the direct cost of an injury. The National Safety Council says the average workers' comp claim is over $41,000. If an uninsured sub gets hurt on your job, that bill lands squarely on your desk. There's no insurance company to call, that money comes straight out of your pocket.
Then there's the audit. Insurance companies go through your payroll records. And when they find out you paid a subcontractor who didn't have a valid insurance certificate, they just reclassify that person as your employee and send you a massive bill for all the back premiums you should have been paying.
And don't forget the state regulators. Oh, they do not take this lightly. In a state like Colorado, for instance, they can fine you up to $500 per day. That's not a one-time thing. That's every single day you're not in compliance. Those fines can absolutely cripple a small business with terrifying speed.
And you have to understand, the direct financial hits are just the start. The insurance company can just cancel your policy, making you basically uninsurable. They can sue you for those audit bills,
And in the worst-case scenarios, yeah, you could face criminal charges for insurance fraud. A single accident can spark a lawsuit that completely wipes out the business you've worked so hard to build.
Okay, that was pretty grim. So how in the world do you keep your business from being haunted by all these risks? Well, the good news is the real solution isn't actually that complicated. It just takes a little diligence. Here it is. This is your 4-step playbook for real protection. First, carry a legit policy that actually covers uninsured subs. That's your safety net. Second, you have to demand a current certificate of insurance from every single person who steps foot on your job site. Third, and this part is critical, verify the certificate. Don't just take the paper and file it away. Call the agent listed on it and confirm the policy is real and active. And finally, you have to enforce your rule, no certificate, no work, period, no exceptions. This has to be completely non-negotiable.
So it really all boils down to this one question. A ghost policy. It offers a small, very tempting savings up front, but when you really weigh that against crippling audits, huge state fines, devastating lawsuits, and the very real possibility of losing your entire business, you have to ask yourself, is that cheap piece of paper